Welcome, guys. Yeah, man, how are you doing today? I haven't slept that much today. I'm kind of tired, but I'm very motivated to do this video today. Yeah, we're not gonna make a beat today. We're gonna do something a little bit different. Yeah, we're just gonna talk a little bit. You know, I have a few topics in mind that I want to talk about. I do not have a script per se. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna look at how I made this beat. There's something I want to talk about here. I think I found the cure to beat block. You will still feel uninspired sometimes, but I found a way this week to just get rid of that mental barrier when making beats. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you feel you're not in the right headspace to make beats. You're thinking about the technicalities. It's easy to get lost in all the technicalities, especially if you consume a lot of tutorials on YouTube because you want to get better at your craft. Yeah, man, but sometimes that can drive you away from what made you start making beats. What was that, a sentence? So, you know, you have to you can't lose sight of the music, the feeling behind that, you know? So what you will do whenever you feel beat block, okay? You are going to go to YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, whatever you use for listening to music, and you are going to listen to the hardest music that you know. In my case, I did that yesterday. Fili Delle Stelle is a banger. I listened to that, and you have to concentrate on how it makes you feel, you know? This nice feeling of, damn, that's a fire song. And yeah, man, that's the headspace you want to be in when making beats. It's just as easy as that. And then you're gonna take a short break from making beats, like half a day, maybe a full day. You're gonna come back to FL Studio with no idea in mind. You just do whatever you like. And it's probably gonna turn out fire because you're in that right mental space, you know? That's what I did before I made this beat. My glasses are nasty, I'll be back. We're gonna break it down a little bit for you. I have no idea of how I wanna go about this. I think we're gonna turn off the effects first, and we're just gonna look at the melody like that, and then we're just gonna jump straight in, okay? We're gonna go to the first pattern, and we're gonna have a look at the chords that I made. Yeah, man, that's the very basic, that's just the typical 1 and 4 chord progression that's used a lot in West Coast type beats. So if you look at it, it's like this chord. What? If you look at this chord right here, it's basically this one, but just with a little bit of inversion, you know. So I pitched this chord, this note down an octave, as well as this one, and then you have this chord that I made. And I wanted to do it a little bit differently. I decided to add these two transition chords. I don't even know what I want to call them. It's just to give the entire thing a little bit more bounce. I layered that with a pad from Expand. I basically just copied it over and added it in here. We're gonna listen at how that sounds together. Pretty nice if you ask me. Then I added another pad. These are the same chords as in the progressions I showed you before. So as you see, these are the exact same chords, but I wanted this to be a little bit more straightforward. So it's basically just, it's supposed to play in the background. Yeah, it's just for atmospheric purposes, you know, and it makes a huge difference. Listen to it like that. It lacks a little bit of body in my opinion, so I'm still a little bit sick, sorry for my voice. And with the pad it sounds like this. Yeah, it kind of sets the scene, you know. Then I added this very basic string hit. I think everybody knows about that sound. I got it from a drum kit of Reddit. I hope it's not a stolen one. I thought it was just a... I'm not gonna link it in the description, but if you look for the Hyper West Coast drum kit on Google, you will find it immediately. It's a very nice drum kit, and I really hope he didn't steal anything, or she. I buy a lot of kits as well. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna explain myself about that. I downloaded this kit with the best of intentions. Yeah, okay. But you get that string sound in every other kit as well, I think, in the Infinite Essentials drum kit, which I bought. Yeah, I bought it. You will find that sound as well. It's actually pretty cheap right now. Or I don't know if it's still that cheap. The Infinite drum kits usually cost like 30 bucks or something like that. But if you keep your eyes open, you will get it for 50% off. I make an Infinite Essential advertisement again, but I don't know. He's like the most famous producer in that scene. So I got a lot of drum kits from that guy and they are fire. Yeah, man, I added Purity just for a bell sound. We're gonna talk about the automation here in a second. Then I'll have to pull up the pattern here. So this right here. Yeah, that's basically this pattern. And you might be wondering, what are you doing? Why do you have this 2 times? Basically, if you listen to how it sounds, when we copy that into the first Omnisphere layer, the plugin basically remembers which note you played last and glides up or down depending on what note you played before. So listen to this. You have a G, and then it goes down to D, and then it glides down, you know? Yeah. And on some parts I didn't like how it glided, you know, so I decided to add another instance of the same preset so that this note glides down from here. I just liked it a little bit better that way, you know. I just wanted to change the slides a little bit. Let's listen to this thing in context. Yeah, it's a pretty generic Shoreline Mafia type of melody, in my opinion, especially because of the skinny glider that immediately catches that vibe, you know. Yeah, but now let's talk about the effects that I put on the melody, okay? I basically put reverb on everything. I really like that in the Shoreline Mafia type beats. It makes everything sound a little bit more dreamy, a little bit more, I don't know. Huh? It just sounds nice. So I put a reverb on the piano. Let's see how it sounds compared to the dry signal. You know, it kind of fades out now in the breaks and I like that a little bit more. Then the string hit, I put some delay on that, a little bit of basic equalization. I put some delay on that. That's a free plugin, by the way. You can get that by just googling kilohertz plugins. You will find that immediately. That's the exact same reverb as we have on the piano. I like to have the same reverb presets on most of my sounds. Yeah, what did I put on the pad? I just made it a little bit wider and you see it sounds a little bit harsh. So I made a more fucked up equalizer curve. This is a dynamic compressor. You know, I didn't like that, so... But the frequency range isn't too present for the entire beat. It's just a little bit loud in a certain part of the loop. So I use the dynamic range function here so that the equalizer basically only activates when the frequency range crosses a certain threshold. Yeah, I over-explain things, I guess.
The fucking Focusrite is not working again. I am so calm right now. I'm so happy with my purchase, Focusrite. You make me so...
A few moments later.
USB-Gerät wurde nicht erkannt. Stop it! Work!
Let's just listen to the pad isolated. In the dry signal there are a lot of spikes in the frequency range basically, so here's a lot going on and here. Yeah, and now it's basically a little bit more balanced, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, pretty nice. Let's actually go ahead and see what I did to the other pad. So I got rid of a little bit of the body here between, yeah, around 200 Hertz. And I boosted a little bit of the high mids to give it more presence, you know. It sounds a little bit more clean that way, but that was a more subjective decision. I think you could have kept it at the original. Then I added pancake, because I like to have some elements that are very wide, but static, you know, and this one is moving, and yeah, then I just added the reverb on that again. Then I made this string thingy, you know, that has, I think did I talk about that already? Yeah, I did talk about that. It has some delay and some reverb, basically, so it's not just... Now it's like... Also just makes it a little bit more dreamy. I think that's very key to the Shola Mafia type melodies, in my opinion at least, to have this kind of dreamy sound. Then I added some bells. Let's see how what the MIDI looks like. I think we didn't talk about that. I'm not gonna talk about every equalizer that I added, because it's mostly like subjective decisions that I made. Yeah, that's not worth talking about in this video. What is worth talking about though is the automated input here on the delay. I basically did that because I only wanted this part to be delayed and this part over here. And with the input, you can basically automate which sounds you want to be automated. If you do it with the wet knob, it does not have the same effect, because if I'd turn down the wet, I think I can demonstrate that, I'm not too sure. So you see? Yeah, you can still hear the delay from the first 2 bars. But if you do it by automating the input, I'm actually gonna pull up the wet signal to 100% so you can really hear the difference. A thing that I like to do with my melodies is I route them through a melody bus, and I go through different techniques to glue everything together. I do something which is called parallel compression, but I use a distortion plugin for that usually. It's always the KHS distortion plugin because it's very straightforward. I just pull up the drive to a level that's almost a little bit too high, as well as the dynamics button. I just pull it up so it sounds a little bit almost too loud, and then I just mix it in basically as I see fits. Yeah, it just makes everything sound louder because it actually gets louder, but it also gets out the harmonics of some sounds a little bit more. Yeah, man, just try it out for yourself. Then I have an equalizer to get rid of the sub low end of the melody to make room for the bass and the kick. I usually do not go higher than like 160 hertz or something like that with the low pass, the high pass filter, because, you know, it sounds a little bit thin then. Let's see how it sounds if I push it up to like 200. This is a little bit too much for me, but as you hear, it's very muddy down here. You don't need all that, so I still decide to push it down a little bit. Like 1 decibel. You can do whatever you want, but I basically decided to do it this way because I can clean up that frequency range around 200 hertz without getting rid of it entirely, and that keeps a lot of life in the melody, you know. And then I got the Kotelnikov on there, which is basically a compressor to get rid of the spikes in volume to make the melody a little bit more consistent. That's an optional step actually, because as we use the distortion plugin in the beginning, there's already a lot of compression basically, and adding another compressor can overdo it in some cases, but it worked for me in this beat. You know, it sounds a little bit more, I don't know, like compressed here. It's a little bit glued together. It sounds a little bit more open without the compressor, which is also nice. But I liked it a little bit more that way. That's basically a subjective decision. What you personally prefer more. Yeah, I liked it to be a little bit more compressed. So yeah, that's basically the entire melody. There's not much more to talk about here. I made a bass pattern. few notes to take from this bass line. Sometimes the synth basses glide when you let the notes over each other. Is that how you say that? I don't know. I made it a 16-bar loop to create a perception of more variety throughout the beat, so it's not always the same thing over and over again. That's why I made this lead a 16-bar pattern as well. I just like some elements in my beats to have a longer pattern, usually the bass, 808, and 1 or 2 melody elements, because that gives the beat more depth. Yeah, and it reduces the workload when arranging the beat, because it already the loop already sounds more interesting compared to a basic 8-bar loop. Yeah, then let's talk about the drums. That's pretty quick to explain. The key with drum sounds is to have good drum kits. If you don't have good drum kits, you will struggle to make good, bouncy and punchy drums. How often did I say drum? Yeah, but if you have good sounds, you will have the easiest time, because you see I didn't add any effects on my drums. Just a high pass filter to get rid of the low end to make space for the kick and the bass again. You don't have to do anything to that, basically. What is very important, though, is the master chain that I used. Because listen to it now. It has way more punch with this master chain. It's very basic. It's the Fruity Parametric EQ1, which I only use for this exact purpose, like for the master chain. I saw this trick in one of Infinite's videos. I have to stop glazing, man. It's crazy. It basically boosts the sub lows and the high end a little bit, like half a decibel. I don't even know if it makes a difference. It just feels good to me. And then I always play around with this volume knob, which is basically the most important step. And I play around with it while the soft clipper is on. That's just the basic settings. And I basically push the sound of the entire beat into this soft clipper by increasing the volume here. I turn down my headphones a lot during this step, and I just play around with it and see where that good crunch is, you know. If I pull it up like this, it's a little bit too much. And if I pull it down here, it's too weak. In this case, here is a perfect level in my opinion. Test that crunch, it's not too much. And that's it. What's also very important is that I added my beat tag, of course.
Daddy.
Sometimes I have to laugh when I listen to my own beat tag, but people are gonna recognize my name when they hear that tag. Yeah, I guess that's a quick little video today. After all, what's important to say is stay true to yourself. Make the music you enjoy making, and you will never feel beat block again. Don't forget what it's about, why you like making music. Don't get lost in all the technicalities. Don't compare yourself too much to other producers. I know you should do that to gather information, but don't overdo it. Like, sometimes you just have to see how far you've come. Okay, I hope you're having a good rest of your day or a good evening or whatever. Thank you for staying here until the end of this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video. Follow me on Instagram if you are a producer, because I have some value to offer. I wanted to do this last week already, but I forgot. I'm gonna upload one loop pack every week, which is only gonna be available for this week, and then it's gonna be off the market. You know, you might not ever hear those loops again. So it's a good way to find exclusive samples. Yeah, as I said, have a nice rest of the day, and I'll see you in the next one. Videos every Sunday.